Hello? Glad you made it.
Are we live?
Welcome to the show.
Ladies and gentlemen,
may I introduce?
Through the magic of television.
Hello there, listener. Welcome to Through the Magic of Television, the Magic Rewatch podcast. I'm your host, Alex McAleer, and my guest this week is former police officer, former bodybuilder, and current comedy magician John Archer. Yes, all of those things are true. It's always lovely to catch up with John, so when I messaged him to ask him if he wanted to be on the podcast and talk about the pilot of Penn and Teller's Fool Us and talk about being the first official Fooler, I was really pleased to hear that he would soon be in my hometown of Norwich. He was on tour supporting his longtime friend and comedian Tim Vine. So John and I arranged to meet at his hotel and talk all about this episode. As ever, there is a link in the show notes for you to rewatch this Fool Us pilot, but as John and I discuss, it was a tricky one for me to find the full episode, so there are two missing segments. We discussed them both, but the two missing segments are James Moore doing the Squeezebox illusion and Richard Beller's doing an Alakazam trick called Mind Control. I couldn't find the James Moore clip anywhere online, but you can find the Richard Beller's clip. This was a really great chat with John. We discuss all sorts of things, including the show and magic in general. He shares some fascinating behind-the-scenes stories about filming the pilot of a show that's still going over a decade later. And we also briefly discuss his potentially disastrous live semi-final appearance on Britain's Got Talent and how he was prepared to save the day by having a backup plan. So here's me and John talking all about the Fool Us pilot. So how did you get involved? This is the pilot episode. How did you become involved? Did you just get an email? Was there a call out?
No, I think it was an email I got. I'm pretty sure it was an email initially. And everybody, it seemed like just about everybody had got the email. Everybody who, sort of in my circle, everybody seemed to have got it. So then there was this sort of, obviously the show wasn't known at the time, so nobody knew what it was going to look like, what the beast was. So there was just lots of conversation. And the main conversation was, well, it's impossible to fool Teller.
Yeah.
There was that idea that, well, you can't fool another good magician. They'll just know. Of course, we now realise that that's rubbish. And it is possible to not just fool them, but fool anybody if you slightly twist things. And the game's changed, I think, since the pilot we did. The game's changed a little bit in that now people sort of deliberately use stuff that heads them in the wrong direction, or quite often can. That didn't even come into the minds of anybody, I think, on the pilot that we did.
I think maybe your routine, which we'll get to, I think because you're doing a classic routine, a bank night, essentially, but you've slightly twisted the method, it throws them off.
Yeah. We will talk about that later.
Yeah.
But you're right. But it was still, I was still not trying to make them believe I was doing another method, which has happened since. People have deliberately, and I don't think Penn and Teller particularly like it when people deliberately mime palming something or, set up as though one method's been used by everything that they do.
Yeah.
When actually it's another method. So, but yeah, we knew none of that. So everybody was sort of saying, oh, it's impossible. And the general consensus was, it's unlikely anybody will fool them. And then there was also this big thing of, are they going to expose it all? Is it, because Britain's Got Talent then was very nasty towards magicians.
Yes.
It's changed completely. But at that time, Britain's Got Talent was like horrific for magicians. So they would just, show tricks going wrong and expose, film from the wrong angle so you could see what was happening. And I think people thought that might happen with this, even though they'd sort of made a promise. So it was all a bit of a risk. Right at the beginning of the show, it's funny because Jonathan Ross sort of introduces it, and then he goes to Penn and Teller talking about what they do before they appear. And they say this thing, all the people coming on tonight are very brave. And I think that was true of that first pilot. I don't think it's that brave going on Fool Us Now. I mean, it's still
Yeah,
great
well-
to do it. There's still a challenge, but you're not. You know that you're going to be made to look good now. If you go on that show now, you know that they're going to be nice to you. They're going to make you look good. We didn't. I mean, they did make us look good in the pilot, but we didn't know that. So there wasn't much more bravery going on that first pilot, I think, of not really knowing how it was going to be.
Because it's been on for a long, like it's still running now.
Yeah, yeah.
And as with all Penn and Teller stuff, it'll stop when they die. I imagine.
Yeah.
They're a lot softer now. It feels like in the pilot especially, and then later they get softer.
Yeah.
They always say nice things.
But you know what? I think, I mean, that's partly as the shows develop, but Penn has got softer.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
Penn has got a lot softer. He lost all the weight, which physically changed him from a big, scary, I mean, he's still a big,
Sort of giant.
potentially scary guy, but it changed him, from sort of a hulky-looking, American footballer to a more businessman type look. But also he's been through a journey himself. He's vegan now. He's and he's still opinionated, but he's more forgiving of people who disagree with him, I think, than he was.
Yeah, a lot less hard-edged.
Yeah. So he has become warmer and nicer. I said nice is probably the wrong word. He was nice before, but his character's become less abrasive and warmer, and I think that's maybe reflected in the show because, of course, Teller doesn't really, affect the vibe so much. I mean, he was, even in the pilot, he was smiley and noddy, and he's sort of he's sort of like a mime artist, isn't he, in certain ways.
Yeah, he's always leaning forward in the chair, really watching them because he just loves magic.
Yeah.
Excited to watch these acts. The first act in this, he's just bouncing around because he's so excited by it.
Yeah. No, it is great to watch his face during all of the acts, because Penn is just enjoying it. Penn, you just sort of feel like he's just enjoying the performance and he's laughing, and of course he's watching, but you feel like Teller is almost, watching for he's watching for the moves and he's less interested in the. You still see him laughing, but it seems like he's really out to spot what's going on.
Have you heard Piff, the Magic Dragon's pre-show prayer?
Oh yeah,
Which is, please don't ever let me find out what Teller
really thinks. No, there is a bit of that. There is a bit of that. Oh well, I sort of think the same thing about Penn. I wonder where he really thinks of me.
Yeah.
I mean, they've always, said very nice things about me, and I've got no reason to doubt that they mean it. But yeah, it is more so a Teller, isn't it? You sort of wonder what's going on. I think because he's quiet and silent a lot of the time.
Everybody who comes on the show tonight is going to be very, very brave. It's really tough to do a trick for someone who might actually tell you what they think afterwards. This show is just about getting back that first feeling that we got when we were 5 years old and first saw someone vanish something in their hand like that. That's a beautiful, wonderful feeling, and we want it again. So, fool us.
The spoiler alert for the listeners, you fooled them, as we just discussed. Did you go out to Vegas? Was that, because I know these days they don't really want you to come out to Vegas. Just take a cash prize and
It's
the trophy.
Well, it's odd now, isn't it? Because it's filmed in their theatre.
Yes.
In Vegas, so the prize is to perform there again.
And also probably at their convenience.
For no money. So it's. I think the prize is less important. Ben Earl, who also fooled them, double spoiler alert. Yeah. We did go out, and we probably got the best deal out of anybody who fooled them, because later on, when they started doing the series, we did the pilot. When they started doing the series, obviously, people went out there for a couple of days, did the show, flew home. Because Ben and I were the first to fool them, and then they were going to do a series based on that pilot. They sent we had a film crew with us.
Yes.
So we were out there for a week. My wife came out, Ben's partner, then now his wife, went out with him, and we spent a week there, and they hired stretch limousines. We went on a helicopter ride. We were, drinking cocktails at the top of some bar somewhere, filming us, and we just had a fantastic week. We were tracked like, superstars, and then we performed in their show at the end, which was just, it was unbelievable. They finished their show and said, we're going to do one more trick. If you need to leave, you can, which I think was a rule of probably of the casino, that they didn't want them.
Yeah, they need people back on the floor.
Yeah, they need people spending money. But nobody really did leave, but they were given the opportunity to leave. But then also, at that point, they did one other trick while the audience were deciding what to do. And during that point, just lots of magicians sort of filed into the theatre. It was like Chris Kenner and Armando Lucero and Matt King and it just all the names, all the Vegas magician names, all sort of came in and were stood either side to see these two people who'd fooled Penn and Teller.
It was like performing a convention.
And of course, Ben, who's just remarkable with cards. So it was, that itself, just performing to their full theatre, but also these Las Vegas magicians that stood around to watch. Yeah, it was very, very special. It felt great, and we were treated, as we would have hoped, really.
Yeah,
it was brilliant.
Did you ever get because now they have the trophy? Did you ever get a trophy?
Well, it's funny actually. I was in Vegas last year. I went and worked at the Magic Castle, and I went and I stayed with Matt King for 3 days in Vegas before I went and did a show for Randy Pitchford at his place in Dallas. And the guy who owns the Magic Castle now. So I had a little sort of travelling around America. But I was in Vegas for 3 days with Mac, and he had a party on the Wednesday night, and Penn and Teller came along to the party, and there's various other people there as well, magicians and the Vegas glitterati. And I mentioned, that I was a bit bitter that I hadn't got a trophy, and the first person to ever fool them should have got a trophy. And then a few weeks later, when I was home, a trophy arrived. And it actually said John Archer, first fooler on it. Nice. Because I'd also had a bit of a joke with them about the fact that other people had said they'd fooled them first. So Alan Hudson, who did the rehearsal, fooled them.
Yes, I know that
with
story.
A trick. So we always have this thing of Alan saying, well, I fooled them. And I'm going, well, he fooled them in a rehearsal. Yeah. And then Paul Vigil had sort of said to me, well, I was the first person to fool them because we used to try the show out in Vegas. And I fooled them several times in there. And I mentioned this to Penn at this party, and Penn, in his typical way, went, bullshit. You were the first person to fool us. You always will be the first person to fool us. So I think when I got the trophy and he put first fooler on there, I think that was just for me. So that,
it makes it official. It's not a trophy.
It makes it official, yeah.
The day of filming, were you the first day of filming, first official day? Is that when you filmed?
Well, we did the pilot before the series, so it was just one show. So when we did it, it was only one show that was happening. So
and it sounds like it was a bit of a nightmare because
it was a nightmare day for a few reasons. First of all, before we look at the show, well, I'll tell you about how the day ran. We were at the studios all day, and we'd get taken out to try little bits, but they were trying to keep it a little bit secretive. So when the show actually was filmed, you were all kept in one room, and then you were almost brought out like, I don't know, like a courtroom drama, like you were, the next person to give evidence, and you'd be taken out, and we had no monitors in the room to see what was going on. So one person would just disappear. I said in one interview that I felt it was a bit gladiatorial, like being fed to the lions. And it was a bit like that. Somebody would go out, and then the rest of us would never hear from them again.
I was going to say, they don't come back and go,
we don't go back, I fooled them all. No, they then got taken to another room to have sandwiches and cakes and relax and things. And then you'd go out and do your bit. And then, so I went out and did my bit, found out I fooled them, and then I went out and said, did anybody else? No, you're the first one, hooray. And then, but of course, Ben Earl still hadn't gone out, so he didn't know that I'd fooled them. So it was all, and I think they still do that now. I think they still keep everybody. So from what I've heard, they still keep everybody separate, so you don't know what's going on beforehand. So we were all kept in this like rehearsal room. We'd go out during the day and take our bits and rehearse them and everything, and block it through. And then it was sort of getting close to the recording time. I think they start recording at 7 or something, but it was torrential. Is torrential the word for snow? Anyway. That's rain. Is it torrential rain? Can you have torrential snow?
I assume you can. A blizzard.
A torrential blizzard.
A torrential blizzard,
Yeah,
sure.
I'm using the word. I'm owning it. But yeah, lots and lots of snow, basically. So bad that the roads, were getting closed, and basically the audience couldn't get there. So we were sort of due to start, and there was like maybe 20 odd people have arrived, and it should have been 300 or something. So I think that, I don't know whether it started an hour late, maybe even longer than that, but I know it started much later than it should have done, which all just added to the pressure, because we were sort of kept locked in this, it was a big room, but, locked in this sort of performing area, just waiting until it was going to go off, really. And of course we couldn't meet Penn and Teller, we couldn't, chat much to anybody outside. So yeah, it was a bit of an ordeal.
Yeah, slightly surreal, because it's quite high pressure just doing anything, filming anything in a studio, because you're aware of the time and the pressure. But
but when you're locked in a room, one of the people is Noel Qualter. It makes, he's a little nervous, backside twitching.
What an image.
Yeah. He never got shown, sadly. It sort of didn't quite work out for him, but he did go on later on in the series.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a tense little day, really. Very nerve-wracking in hindsight, looking back on it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to what I promise will be, but for both the audience here and everyone watching at home, a truly magical night. I've always loved magic. When I was a little kid, I used to be enchanted by my granddad. He would ask me for a coin, like 10p or something, and he would just make it vanish into thin air. He was a wonderful magician. Also, unfortunately, a thief, because never got it back. We're going to show you more magic than a Hogwarts assembly. And think of me, if you will, as an immaculately suited, ravishingly handsome Dumbledore. Or don't.
So yeah, let's go through the show.
Yes.
So it opens with Mr. Jonathan Ross. For some reason at this point, he looked like he was in a production of The Three Musketeers.
He looks a little bit like Laurence Thingy Bowen, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yes, he does. Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen.
Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen. He's got that. He looks like he should have big sleeves, and it was in his sort of Three Musketeers face. You're right.
Yeah.
And I thought he was a great host.
Yes, he was very good.
Because he genuinely does love magic. We know that.
He's an excellent host as well.
Yeah, and he's a great host. He's a good friend of Penn and Teller. It's a shame it never worked out for him in America. Really, I thought there was various things went wrong there, but he was perfect for the British one, and also he was really lovely. I didn't meet him much. I sort of met him briefly beforehand, and then just before I went on, while my VT was playing, he was chatting to me saying, "You're a very funny man. You'll be great." He was encouraging.
Yeah, he's doing a good cough head job.
So he was, he was great, and the way he hosted the whole thing was good. I think I know the host has just changed for the next series of films.
Yeah.
I think I can't remember who it is, but the thing that he did that I don't think they've done since is he very much sort of became a teammate with the person who was trying to fool them.
Yeah, I was going to say
it very
that.
much became like, we're a team. Whereas now, who's the girl?
Alison Hannigan.
Alison Hannigan. When she's hosting it, she's lovely too, and she's a great host. But you feel a little bit like she's impartial.
Yes,
You know,
she's
she-
adopted that role as Jonathan Ross took on the role of, I'm on the side of the magicians, but don't worry, I'm friends with these two.
Yeah. She seems a little bit more impartial when she does it. But he sort of did that, and he wasn't afraid to almost slap Penn and Teller down a little bit.
Yeah.
Say, look, never mind all of that. You haven't quite got it.
He also knew when to step back, to not be Mr. Jonathan Ross the host, he would just be the participant in the trick.
Yeah.
He wouldn't do the quips then. He knew what to do. He played the role perfectly.
Yeah.
But it is a shame. I think he did the proper season. He did one season in the US, didn't he?
He did one season in the US, and I don't know whether it was I think it was a combination of things. I've heard lots of rumours as to why he didn't do any more, some of which are maybe true and some which aren't, but it's an American audience, so, maybe he just didn't quite connect with them.
It's probably coming from the channel.
Maybe being out in Vegas, didn't suit his family life. Maybe, he fell out with somebody, maybe they fell out with him. There's lots of things that could go wrong, but he was a great host, in my opinion.
Yeah. Superb. The first act is Ali Cook.
Hi, I'm Ali. I'm a proper wizard. You probably see some fakes, but real deal. I describe my style as being shocking, but then also very silly at the same time.
Yes, Ali Cook. Now, that was a little bit controversial, from what I remember. And I might get it all wrong. You should maybe do a little insert with Ali Cook saying Archer's completely wrong. You can just put that in any time you like. But I seem to remember that Johnny Thompson was slightly, I don't know whether annoyed's the word or uncomfortable, because he felt that what Ali was doing was a bit similar to Copperfield. Copperfield did the goose and the heads off thing. But I think it was different. I don't know whether Copperfield ever did the reveal of them with both of the heads swapped or not.
Yeah, that's what felt original to me. That's kind of the punchline at the end, because you see essentially a chicken's head on a duck's body, but it's a chicken that has a whitish body.
Vice versa. And vice versa. But it was a good start to the show, because it was, it's like start with a bang, start with something very unusual that people probably hadn't seen, and it was sort of it played big and it was funny, and it was different, which is probably a good way to start. But yeah, I do remember vaguely there was some tension or other between Johnny Thompson and Ali on that, or maybe it was afterwards or before and it was resolved. I don't really know.
Maybe it was on the forums, people going like, "Oh, this is just Copperfield's da 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 da,"
Yeah, well, I mean, there was certainly, it was Copperfield-esque.
But all illusionists are who are under 40.
Yeah, no, that's true. But he did it brilliantly, and it was and he got good comments from Penn and Teller. I mean, it's one of those tricks that there's a lot of tricks. Not just in the pilot, in the whole series, where it's not going to fool them before you even start.
Oh yeah.
But that's not why you go on the show. People go on the show, the main reason is to get seen and get a good clip. And then some people think, well, I'll try and fool them as well, and some people think I'm not going to bother.
Yeah, I'll give it a go, but let's see.
Yeah. And I think I fell in the middle. I think I fell in the middle of, I just want to come across well, but I knew there was a tiny chance it might fool them. But the Alice thing was good. It was, it was relatively quick. Something like,
it was fast-paced and a biggish illusion.
Yeah.
Lots of comedy beats. Kind of had everything. It's a good opener to the whole concept of the show. You don't want to open with some coin magic or some card tricks.
No, exactly, because they had two, three card effects. The Bellas did cards, and
Michael Vincent
and Benel did cards. So they certainly don't want to start straight away with the cards. Although, I mean, some might think, well, if you've got that many card tricks, you just need to spread them out. But I think the Ronaldo was probably a good idea.
Yeah, it felt like a good show.
Yeah,
for sure.
First of all, what did you think of the act, guys? What do you think of Ali Cook's performance?
It's an act. It is really an act we have always wanted to see. You read about that. We were saying it, that it's ancient Egyptian.
Yeah.
It's Dedi or Didi? D-E-D-I?
Didi, yeah.
Didi, is that the way it's pronounced? Yeah. Teller was talking about the ancient Egyptian text it's in. It's talked about all the time, but nobody, I don't think, in our lifetime has done it. It's just absolutely wonderful. And I will also say, and I don't want to give too much away, the puppetry you did is astonishing. The duck and the chicken have characters and continue those characters throughout. You did not fool us, but you blew us away. It's fabulous.
Thanks very much.
And really funny.
Speaking of card tricks, next up is Michael Vincent doing Michael Vincent.
Yeah, that was impeccable, wasn't it?
I watched it this morning, and it's so elegant. Well, also, you watch it, you go, I know what these moves are in general, but he just does them so well. You kind of have to be a magician to appreciate how good.
Yeah, because a non-magician would watch that and not have a clue that anything was going on.
No.
And it looked like it was meant to look. It looked like magic. He'd show an ace, he'd just wave his hand over it and it would change to a different ace. And it was all, classic, skillful card magic, done impeccably, but again, sort of moves that even if you can't do them yourself, a pass has happened, but you don't see the pass.
Yeah, it was a credible pass.
And I never saw the deck, switched.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what was funny, right at the beginning when we were talking about Jonathan Ross. It was interesting that you made that comment of, unlike other TV shows, this shows won't have any camera edits or camera tricks or edits.
Yeah.
And of course, it does have some edits, but the edits are for magical reasons. The edits are just there for time.
Yes.
Although a few of the edits probably were beneficial to the accidentally. But it was interesting that he made that point. It was almost like, was that a Penn and Teller sort of idea of let's let the audience at home know that a lot of TV magic is camera tricks and edits, but this one isn't. I wonder whether that was a little, I want to get that message out there type thing.
I think so, because there's also, isn't there a kind of unwritten rule that you're not allowed to, no stooges are allowed and no pre-show.
No stooges or pre-show, that's right, yeah.
And not even pre-show in terms of, like a lot of magicians will go check that someone has a bill.
Yeah.
You're not even allowed to do that.
No, that's right.
Production will make sure someone
And I like that. I like that about it. It's fair. I have mixed feelings about television shows where it's heavily edited or completely rigged, stooges, and and there's a lot that goes on now. And my thinking is, I just think it's cheating, because when we fool somebody, it's us against them as a magician. It's right, I'm going to show you something, and hopefully you won't understand it. And then, but the person watching it live sees everything, or has a chance to see everything if they want to look in the right place. Or if they choose not to be misdirected verbally or visually or whatever. But as soon as that's taken away on TV, you might as well just do anything. You might as well just get some actors, lie, use a camera trick, pin everything out.
You might as well just write a TV show then.
Yeah, you might as well just write a Superman movie.
Yeah.
and say, look, he's flying. The only thing that's different is we're adding to our lies by saying this is real, which Superman movies never do. I don't. That's my little high horse, and I know there's magicians who would argue that you're using the edits to recreate what you can't create live. I don't know, but
yeah.
Anyway, I'm not.
There's a fine line. I have this kind of idea of, like, if the method's not good enough to put in front of the camera or the audience, it's not good. Find a better method.
Yeah. You see, I'm really old school. I don't even like pre-show.
No, I don't. I'm a rare exception in mentalism where I'm just like, no,
I don't like pre-show because my thing is, again, you're not fighting fair. I always say it's a bit like going into the dressing room at a boxing match and getting your friend to punch your opponent several times before the match starts. It's like it should all happen in the ring.
Yeah.
And we should see everything that goes on, because, to be honest, it's easy just to say you're thinking of carrot. Yes, I am. Or the audience go, well, that's amazing. You go, no, he isn't. I told him to think of carrot before the show started.
If they see, I think Mark Paul says this, if the audience see the selection process and how fair it is, they'll be baffled. Whereas if they go, just think of anything, they're like, well, you must have spoken before.
Yeah. And also, I go and watch shows where, lots of pre-shows being done, and you see the magician, or usually mentalist, will be telling people unbelievable things about themselves. The whole audience are going wild, and the one person who should be impressed by it all is just nodding the head as if to say, yeah, that's what I wrote down. Yeah, well done. Yeah. Really,
they're paper in a while, actually.
They should be freaking out more than anybody.
Yes.
Yeah, they're the least impressed people in the whole room. Anyway, we digress.
First of all, remarkable up-close magic, I would have thought, regardless of whether you've...
Wonderful. And also classic. I mean, when you first get into magic, this is what you're trying to learn. I will just tell the people at home, because I think it makes it more amazing, there was no trick deck whatsoever used. This is what a person can do with just their hands and a deck of cards. This is not hours, not days, this is decades of practice to do
Old
this.
school magic.
I drove him crazy. You made wonderful, polite eye contact with me, and I looked down at your hands. The only people that would do that
Is a
would be
magician.
us and psycho killers.
He's absolutely right.
I remember this must have been still when I was vaguely looking at the Magic Cafe, because I've never heard this phrase before, but Penn introduced the world to the phrase "rang in a cooler."
Rang in a cooler. Yeah, which was probably the most Googled phrase 10 minutes after he'd said it.
Every magician.
Everybody, let's Google rang in a cooler.
Because that's a gambling. A cold deck is one that hasn't been shuffled, right? Does that?
Well, it's just a cooler is just it's just a new deck that you switch in.
Yeah.
And it can be set up. It can be completely clean if if you've been using a mountain deck and whatever it is. But yeah, it was funny you used that phrase because it is more of a gambling phrase than a magician's phrase. Although I suppose it is used by magicians.
Yeah.
The thing about Michael Vincent was, if it was about who's the best magician on the show,
Oh yeah.
Michael Vincent would have been up there to win it. But it wasn't. And it's funny because Piff never fooled them, and yet look how successful he's been as a result of that show, and yet he never fooled them. It's an odd show. It's sort of that you've got to fool them, but it doesn't really matter if you don't. I think that just that very simple thing of can you fool us, having a name. It's not really a competition as such. You're not competing against anyone other than yourself and them. It's you against them.
Yeah.
I think it is a nice premise for a show.
And very simple to understand as well.
And I can remember early on, there was an awful lot of discussion about, what classes as fooling them or not, and Penn basically, just put everybody in the place and said, look, we decide.
Yeah.
We decide.
It's completely subjective.
It's completely subjective. We decide whether you fooled us or not. That's it. But it's funny because Michael Vincent's used to Britain's Got Talent as well, and again did a fantastic audition, but just sort of got looked over. Really.
Yeah. It's not ready for that audience.
No.
I've mentioned on the podcast before, I've done it twice. Britain's Got Talent. It's never been shown.
Yeah.
And the one I do just doesn't work for that show.
Yeah, it is odd, isn't it? Because there can be great people who do badly, and there can be some terrible people who do great on there. But yeah, it's sort of it's a bit cruel on Michael, because I do think Michael is a real talented magician, and a really nice guy, and he's sort of. Yeah, I think you're sort of the type of shows that he would have done really well on are sort of, gone now.
Yeah, there was. We'll get to them on the podcast, but Paul Daniels' Secrets, do you remember that from the mid-90s?
Yeah.
Michael Vincent had a couple of episodes, sat at the tables in the sort of the cabaret setup, doing the same material, the material he's done for years, and it's extraordinary.
Yeah.
It's just the same brilliant moves. He's just so good. We did Champions of Magic. We did a run of shows in Jersey, and Michael Vincent was with us. I think we did 4 or 5 shows.
All right.
And basically every show he did a different set.
Yeah.
Just him, a deck of cards, maybe. He also did his gypsy thread and stuff. Different performance every show.
No, he's great. I mean, he really is. But it's just sort of, it shows the show for what it was. It wasn't about, how brilliant you were, how well scripted, how good you looked, how well you performed it. It all boiled down to, do we know how you did it or not? And I quite like. Obviously, I quite like it because I was on the winning side. But
my name's John Archer. I'm a comedy magician. Got my happy shirt on, got a microphone, a load of empty seats. It's like all the gigs I do.
Knock them dead out there.
And I suppose it is a bit of a strange thing, but I was a policeman for 10 years up in the northeast of England, Stockton-on-Tees, Cleveland Constabulary. So I've probably been doing magic either as a hobby or professionally for about 25 years. There can't be many jobs where the whole point of your job is just to make people feel good. There are a few jobs, but maybe we shouldn't mention them.
So next up, we come to the main event. That's you.
Was I on next?
You were on next.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Well, yeah, right. What? Yeah. What
Is
did
that
I
the
do?
VT? Have you Tim's in the VT as well?
Tim's in the VT, yeah. Yeah, I hadn't watched that pre-show VT for a long time because I've seen clips of me doing the trick,
Yeah.
in front of Penn and Teller, and then bizarrely all of the British clips got taken off YouTube because of copyright. So, so it's
I had to hunt around to find this version.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It is hard to find it. I mean, another one just appeared of my bit a while ago, but it got up to several million hits at one point, and then just got taken off. It was heartbreaking, and somebody put it on again, and it's got 10 hits. You go, oh. Yeah, it was. I hadn't seen that particular opening clip. I was quite pleased. I thought I come across as quite a funny chap.
Yeah, it's really it's funny you mentioned you were a policeman for 10 years.
Yeah.
Was that part of your on-stage persona back then?
No, not at all. That
Did they want that?
They want that.
You're an ordinary guy.
Yeah, I think they really wanted, because I'd been out of the police for 20 years then.
But also before this, you've done a lot of TV before. I remember you did. I definitely want to cover on this if I could find them. Hidden Camera Magic. What was it called?
It was called Undercover Magic.
Undercover Magic.
Yeah,
And you've done a few other things as well.
I'd done Undercover Magic for Sky, which sort of Sky didn't really stick with them.
Yeah.
It got buried quite quickly. But yeah, that was with Mark Paul and Loki and Kerry Scorer and Max Somerset.
Yeah.
And one of those, team magic shows like Monkey Magic and quite a lot of them that went on at the time. And then I'd done Help My Supply Teacher's Magic.
Yes.
Of course, which we did 3 series of that. So yeah, I'd done bits of TV, but nothing that would make me a household name. I do now and again get some 30-year-old come up to me and say, I used to watch you on Help My Supply Teacher's Magic, which makes me feel
I did mention to my son, he said, who are you meeting today for the podcast? I went, do you remember Help My Supply Teacher's Magic? Why did he used to call it something funny? Because I can't remember how old he would have been. What was it? Help My Teacher's Magic.
Yeah.
That's
Well, each series was different. It was Help My Supply Teacher's Magic, Help My Supply Teacher's Still Magic, and Help My School Trip is Magic.
Yes.
Was the final one, and the middle one got a BAFTA, which was lovely, children's BAFTA. But so I'd done bits of TV and stuff, but nothing that would, when I came on the show, I doubt whether many people went, oh, that's that guy from.
Yeah, but they probably wanted that in there to be like a little bit of Britain's Got Talent, where there's someone who's a sort of hobbyist magician. Or
Yeah, but it I suppose it, they want to make everybody seem a bit different as well.
Yeah.
And I suppose if somebody said, well, I used to be a welder, but I went into magic, that's not that exciting.
Yeah.
But there's something that seems very funny about a police officer.
Yes, that's true. And there's that
doing
funny picture of you in your uniform.
Yeah, with a rabbit in that hat, yeah. So yeah, they covered all of that, which was nice. I hadn't watched that for a while.
Good evening, hi, it's good to see you all. It's good to be here. My name, as you know, is John Archer. I'm a comedy magician. I tell you that all nice and early because you're all looking at me at the moment thinking he looks more like a builder. I must admit, I am laying a few bricks at the moment.
And I was nervous. I don't think I've ever been more nervous doing anything.
You don't look nervous, but I've worked with you a bit and seen you perform a lot, and I go like, I think he's a little bit nervous.
I can tell watching it, and a few people who know me well could tell I was nervous. Certain things I do, I'm aware, and the script. When I actually came out and started performing the trick, if you watch me, it's difficult to see from the way it's edited stuff, but I don't actually look Penn and Teller in the eye till about halfway through the routine. I actually I'm talking to the audience on the sort of stage left, and then my eyes go up to look at the back of the audience, over the top of Penn and Teller's head, and then I go down to the right and I look at them, and I never looked at them until about halfway through, till I think I'd got 2 envelopes chosen, and I'm starting to relax. I never totally relaxed, even when they're doing the deliberations. You can see how nervous as I am, and when I sort of realise that they're probably going to say I fooled them, you can see how nervous I am at that point. and almost cried at one point. I almost got a little bit emotional, which I can just see, just briefly.
Just see it in your own eyes.
See it at one moment, at one sort of shot. But yeah, I didn't look at them. But then there was one point where I felt a bit, and I thought, I'm just going to look. And I'd just done a joke, can't remember when it was in the routine. And I sort of looked, and Penn was sort of, head back laughing. And Teller wasn't looking at my eyes at all. He was just staring at my hands. And I just thought, why did I look at them? So it was very nerve-wracking. And I look at the routine now. The routine's changed quite a bit. There's some stuff in there that I wouldn't do now. There's some flirty bits with a girl about sex, which not normally I do. Now I'd do to the guy. And, I only have the one real sex gag, which is, you don't look like the type of guy who would ask for sex in an open public forum. Well, not twice in the same day anyway. I saw you at the bar earlier. So that's sort of the thing I do. And then if a woman picks sex, I'll let the audience laugh at the fact that they've picked that. But just because we sort of, with the Me Too and everything else, and just the way everything's changed in the last 10 or 15 years, I probably wouldn't do some of the lines I did to the girl, which weren't that bad. It's just like, unfortunately, sex has already gone. I say unfortunately, for me rather than for you.
Yeah.
And then
Which is
and then there's a bit where I go, you seem very, very keen, when she sort of says what she wants straight away. And I go, shame sex isn't still available. I don't think I'd do that now.
Yeah.
In truth. I'm trying to be slightly more aware. And there's certain lines I've cut. I'm not embarrassed by them particularly. They were harmless, and she was fine with it.
And in those examples in the clip, like you're the butt of the joke. The joke is pointing towards you. It's not.
It is. Yeah, it is very much. I'm the one who's making fun of myself to a certain extent.
But you're right. And I don't even do first kiss anymore, which is of course a classic. If I do anything like that, it's first crush, because that's a lot more innocent and it's personal. It's not something involving someone else, or someone's first kiss might have been perhaps even upset.
Yeah, I used to do it. I used to do the same line. I used to say, I don't remember the name of you do it with the guy. The name of the first person you kissed. I don't want his full name, just his first name will do. Yeah. And of course it was funny with a guy, but now it just seems like slightly homophobic.
Yeah.
Which, it never was particularly. It was just, I don't know what it was.
It's a funny thing to say.
Well,
when you reach those comedy bits, you find the funny in them.
Yeah. I have a thing with my ukulele where another line I've just stopped, where I start tuning it up, and I go, this is a Chinese number, it's called tuning. And then, I sort of thought, well, I could have some Chinese people in the audience, and somebody might find that a bit offensive, that I'm making fun of their language and how it sounds. So I've changed it. I've got a gag which isn't as good now, really, which is I say, I don't know why I'm doing this. It was in tune when I bought it, which is all right, but it's not as good as the tune-in gag used to get a laugh. But, you sort of just think, well, it's not desperate, and if it avoids one person out of millions of people
being slightly upset,
then maybe it was worth it.
Yeah.
There's lots of gags out there, aren't there? And you can either take the route of, this, woke Me Too thing, it's all ridiculous, or you can say, do you know what?
I'll work just a little bit harder.
Let's try and be nicer.
Yeah. Let's be nice.
So there's bits of it that I probably wouldn't do now, but I'm not too embarrassed by them.
And also, so there's something, nothing, yours, mine, sex.
Yeah.
That's yours, right? That's your idea.
It is, but the yours and mine gag has been done beforehand me. The original routine was inspired from Sean Carpenter's routine. He had an advertising routine called Persuasive Magnate in his book. And that had words and symbols. So it had, I think, a question mark, whatever that was wrong colour. And he talked about the power of advertising.
Yeah.
And that was the inspiration for the routine. But I thought I wanted to come up with a routine where it was all about the 5 words, and also the Teller called it the Carolian language. In other words, Lewis Carroll type confusing, the Jabberwocky type.
The bits that you've written with something and
it's got something written on it, but it isn't something. It's something else, which could be something, but it isn't something. All of that sort of slightly confusing. That's what I wanted to do.
It's almost
but Sean Carpenter's, I think he had one of the envelopes had sex on.
Right.
I think the Yours and Mine gag was suggested to me by Wayne Dobson. The Yours is bigger than mine.
I might have seen a clip of Dobson doing that, maybe.
Yeah, I think he may have done it in the past.
Yeah.
But then there used to be an old packet trick that had Yours and Mine on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think. So compiling those 5 words was through lots of talk and things that existed, and but that I came on that combination, and that sort of silly language routine.
Well, I quite like that, as it's almost a parody of the Derren Brown style of using suggestive language. It feels like a funny parody of that. I quite
but also that. I've never ever say. I mean, I sort of do. Right at the beginning, so I'm going to make sure you don't win the money by what I tell you about the envelopes and by what I have written on the envelopes. So I very, very weakly imply that what I say and what I've written is going to affect them. But Penn and Teller never picked me up on that.
No.
It's funny because Richard Bellis, in that episode, does the blank deck and riffling through, and Jonathan Ross thinking of a card and seeing a card in an apparent blank deck, and then he implies that he can tell what the card is from his body language, and he does that very much. And Penn calls it out. Calls it out and goes, bullshit. It's all bullshit. They didn't do that with me because I think I did it in such a comedic way that they never believed for 1 minute.
But you're not trying to sell.
I was trying to sell it as being real.
Yeah.
And it is a sort of parody on that whole I'm messing with your head.
You see, you could all have had what's mine, but oh no, you wanted something. Or sex. But if you just been brave enough to ask for what was mine, you would have got it, ladies and gentlemen. The one envelope containing £100. Thank you very much. Right, work that out. No, they don't believe me, but inside the envelope, ladies and gentlemen, there is indeed 20, 40, 60, 80, £100.
Penn published it. It had been out for about a year, and I was selling a PDF of how to do it. I'd advertised it on the Magic Cafe. Some people had gone on there and said it was a terrible idea. Some people were really slagging it off, as they do on the Magic Cafe, and saying there's no need, there's better methods and whatever, which is fair enough if that's what people think. I had given copies of it to some friends. So I'd given a copy to Banachek, and I knew that Banachek worked a little bit with Penn and Teller because Banachek worked on
the bullet catch.
Yeah, the bullet catch. Or I think they call it something else.
Oh, the magic bullet.
The magic bullet, yeah. But so there was a little bit of me that thought, it could have, vaguely been brought to Penn and Teller's attention, but I was sort of thinking it probably hadn't. When I originally got asked to do the show, I knew Johnny Thompson reasonably well. I would call Johnny a friend, and I'd done shows with him in the past. Funnily enough, I'd done a week in Vegas with him, but right at the end, when Jonathan Ross said, "Have you ever done Vegas before?" I lied and said no. So I thought it wouldn't sound very good as, I have. I did a week there just a few years ago. I wanted to make it sound like the prize was a good one. But Johnny had suggested to the team that I do my Magic Square routine because he thought that was hilarious. And so they'd said, Johnny Thompson thinks your Magic Square routine would be good. And I said, well, it is a nice piece, but it won't fool them. It's just a standard method. There's nothing that'll fool them about it. And I sort of stuck to my guns and said, if I do the show, the only trick I've got which stands a chance of getting anywhere near full of them, is my bag night routine. And afterwards, I realised, you sort of realise, as we all did after the show, what's going on when they watch a trick. They're basically looking for all the methods that they're aware of to see which one it is.
Yeah.
So, of course, when Penn and Teller are watching me, I mean, I think Penn's knowledge of magic has increased massively over the last 10 or 15 years since the show started, mainly because he started hanging out a lot more
With magicians.
with magicians.
Yes.
Also, he's suddenly got an interest in magic. He started doing more card magic, and he's become good friends with good magicians. So but then it was very much about Teller's the guy you got to fool. Now I think you got to fool both of them, because I think Penn is equally as smart. But then it was Teller. And I was very much aware that Teller was watching me, and in his head he would have been ticking off, well, he hasn't got a thumb tip. This is just for magicians, isn't it, this podcast?
Oh, of course, yeah.
He hasn't got a thumb tip.
It's not an amazing thing of manipulating a single bill behind it.
Yeah, the fact that I took more than one bill out I knew would be in my favour. The fact that the bill wasn't folded up was in my favour. I wasn't using a tray to slide the last envelope off. I wasn't doing any body loads. And I knew that, Penn would be ticking off these little things in his head. He'd be going, there's no tray, and he hasn't got a thumb. I knew that. And so there is a lovely moment when I sort of take the 5 bills out of the final envelope, and there's a shot of Teller's face, and there's this lovely shot where his mouth's just open as if to say, shit, I've got a backtrack.
Yeah, I've now...
Hang on a minute.
I've gone too far down.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Something has just happened which doesn't add up to everything I've just seen. And that was why, that's why the routine was created, for that reason. I wanted to be able to produce more than one note, and I wanted to be unfolded. I wanted them to clearly come out of the last envelope. That's why that routine was born. It was a bit awkward, because normally when I do that routine, I take the envelopes back. Mm-hmm. So when he checks the envelope, and it goes on my table, or I ask him just to leave it on the stage. So the envelopes are not left in the audience. Because it was a TV show and I was aware of time, I left the envelopes with the people who chose them. So, of course, when it comes to their deliberations, they got one of the envelopes off one of the people and said, can we have a look at that? Which I felt was a little bit unfair, because it's like, can we come and have a look at your,
Okay, can we examine these props?
Yeah, can we come and have a look at your head chopper? Yeah, so I thought it was a little bit unfair that they could sort of look at the props and check everything. So there was a little bit of, oh, crap, they've got the last envelope.
Because there's a reaction of you saying, oh no, don't look at the envelopes. And then I was thinking of the method. I was like, they might not find any. They won't really find anything. Yeah,
well, they did. I mean, they did notice. And it's edited out of the actual show, because if you were there live, all of the deliberations with every performer were longer.
Yes, I've heard it's a long time.
It's a longer process. And he did say, Teller didn't say anything. Penn said, we've noticed that the opening to the envelopes is slightly bigger than would normally be. And afterwards, I spoke to Teller. I think I sent him an email, and I said it would be really nice if that bit wasn't in anywhere. Oh, don't worry, we'll get rid of anything that alludes to the method more than it should. And they did, not just with me, but with other people as well.
But even that, knowing that, it still led them. Their guess was only a vague guess, simply because you pulled one by one 5 bills out. They said you must have put them in there.
Well, until you know the method, that is the way you think of it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, when I perform the trick now, I show the backs of the envelopes much more than I did then. I was still learning the routine. When I do it now, I show the first 5, and then I actually turn them all round. And there's several moments now when I do the routine, when I get down to 3, where I hold them down and show the backs. So I clearly show that there's no money behind the envelopes, much more now than I did then. And in hindsight, that would have been a better thing to do. But they'd have still probably assumed it was held between envelopes or hidden behind or something. But yeah, when they said those words, we think you slide, something into the envelope, which never happens. Nothing gets slid in and out. As soon as they said that, I could hear them say that sentence, and you look at me, and I'm biting my lip. I'm biting my lip, and I'm saying, "Great, keep going." You're just, you're hanging yourself. And I thought, I'm just going to tell them that doesn't happen and see what happens from there. And of course, Johnny Thompson, who's up in the gallery and knows how they're all done, was obviously feeding to Jonathan Ross. They haven't got it.
Yeah,
he's told them, they're close enough. Or no, they haven't.
Yeah.
So that moment. In fact, when I watched it again, I watched it this morning as well. I still got a little bit emotional.
Yeah,
myself.
I was watching again because
I got a little bit emotional when they said they fooled you, and I attempt to jump up in the air. Like an elephant trying to ballet dance. I still got a little bit emotional. It did feel very special. And I've done Britain's Got Talent and got through the semi-final. I still find that more exciting, that moment.
The Fool Us moment.
Teller, yeah.
I think it's because they are complimenting your magic mind, because they literally say you're not the guy that's supposed to fool us.
Yeah. Well, that was great as well. The whole, and it was all very tongue in cheek. People said to me, "Oh, Penn was really annoyed that a policeman fooled you." And I said, "No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. He loved the fact that he could shout about the fact that a policeman had fooled him."
Yeah, he's playing into his character there.
Yeah, of course he is. Yeah.
Let me hear you say those words. Let me hear you say, he fooled us.
Well, I think in my heart,
Spit it out.
he fooled us.
John, you're going to Vegas.
BGT wanted me to do the envelopes for my second spot. And I said, I always think that the final, it doesn't matter what you do in the final. It's getting through the final that's important. And I stuck by my guns and said, no, look, if I get to the final, I'll do the envelope routine. It's just as my final bit. I don't care what it is. And it'll be different. I'll go down to the judges. I'll do the envelopes with the 5 judges. We'll have jokes about each of them, and, we can have, Britain's Got Talent money in there and everything. Whether or not that was the right move to do, I think really I didn't get through the final, not because of what I did, but I didn't get through the final because of the semi-final I was in.
Yeah.
They moved me to that semi-final and swapped me with Mark Spellman, who was in my semi, and they moved him to the Friday night, and he got through. And I think if they hadn't swapped us over, I might have got through with Jonathan Goodwin in that Friday night one. But it's all supposition. Who knows?
Exactly.
Doesn't matter.
Also, on BGT, I'm not sure if I'll keep this in, but the live semi-final with the lottery ticket thing.
Yes.
Was Ant Deck helped you by telling you essentially, we've gone wrong here, John.
Yeah.
And then you immediately snapped into back
Into
up.
my out. Into my out,
I was just like, thank God he's a worker.
And do you know why? Do you know why? The thing is, the funny thing about that going wrong is, and there's maybe an important lesson here, it's electronic. Obviously, I don't think magicians. I think magicians know how it works now. It's all but because it was electronic, we thought we should have a backup. So we had a backup. And during rehearsals, we sort of never used the backup. We just did it. And it worked all right. But we thought when we're doing it live, we better have a backup. And what we discovered afterwards was having 2 of them running was actually what made it not work.
Right.
If we'd have just used one, but one was basically interfering with the other one. And I had Mark Peters, bless him, who was sort of helping me backstage. And he was really nervous. And he couldn't understand why I wasn't nervous. I was not nervous at all. I was nervous in my audition at the Palladium, but I wasn't nervous in the Apollo. I performed at the Apollo twice before with Tim, so I knew the theatre. I didn't feel like I was being judged on that one. Like, there was no buzzers. I didn't feel like I was trying. I mean, the can buzz you during the thing. So I just felt like it just felt like a live gig. And I was just excited. And he couldn't understand why I wasn't nervous. And I was just laughing, saying, "Don't worry," and he was going on, what do I do with this? I said, "Don't worry, you just, you do the secondary one if we need it, And we'd already arranged that, I had a second one with me, right from when I hand off the little prediction I've got. I mean, if it had worked as it was meant to work, it's gorgeous because I never touch anything. They go get the ball and it's in there and it's loaded from the back of my prediction. It's great, and I love the idea. I was very proud of the whole routine. So yeah, I loved it. But yeah, it went wrong, and I sort of knew it might go wrong. We'd done a rehearsal with Ant and Dec, so they knew what was meant to happen.
Yeah, I assumed that too.
They knew.
Yeah.
And they're brilliant. Sort of Dec realised that he hadn't printed out, and he went, "Is that right?" And he didn't really say it. He was sort of saying, he didn't say it's blank. He was that right, and I went, "Of course it was. I wouldn't, put it in there. It's a special ticket. I keep it in an envelope in my wallet, so I can never forget it." And it sort of got it got round it. It's funny because I think it would have fooled the judges a lot less than if it had been there, because the amount of times they've seen magicians pull something out of a sealed level of their wallet, they just go, "Oh yeah, it's that old. Load it into the sealed thingy wallet." And they didn't. The camera didn't catch me doing the switch because I knew that when that was happening, I'd arranged it to happen while Ant and Dec went to the ball, so I knew the camera would be on them.
Yeah,
it had to be on them. So I knew that when I handed the prediction in and got the second ticket, I knew that I wouldn't be on because I wasn't in control of the edit. It was live, but I knew they had to show. No right-minded director would say, "Let's just show John getting rid of the thing while I'm." It just makes no sense at all. So I knew I wouldn't be in shot at that point.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to meet our next contender.
Benjamin Earl.
My name's Benjamin Earl. I'm 29 years old and I've been a professional magician now for the past 6 years.
I remember this one. As soon as he showed the photo, it's someone palming the card behind his back. I went, "Oh yes, it's got this lovely ending where he created that." And I remember there being some controversy about.
There was a controversy over
the phrase of false shuffle, and
there was controversy over the phrase of false shuffle, and I can understand why, because I mean, what he was doing is what he said he was doing, and I was with him all day during rehearsals, and he would rehearse on me, and he'd say, "John, shuffle a deck," and I'd shuffle them. He'd spread them, and then he would shuffle and produce the 4 aces. Now, sometimes he wouldn't produce the 4 aces; he would produce the 4 twos or the 4, because he would look at where the cards were and work out, work out the positions and then shuffle, remembering where they were and bring it to the top. And if the aces were bad, he'd sometimes do it with like the kings or the queens or whatever, but he was always doing it, and I was watching him and I knew that he had to be tracking them because I was shuffling them. So and there was two controversies. Well, one of them was that Penn and Teller said you were false shuffling. He said he wasn't. And the idea is, well, what is a false shuffle? If you're tracking a card and moving it somewhere, or cutting to it, is that a false shuffle? But it's more of a control, I suppose. But then if you're controlling it, but also not messing up other cards, is that a false shuffle? So there was that. But again, Johnny Thompson, was in the gallery. He was sort of saying, it's just saying he's doing false shuffles wasn't enough.
Yeah.
But the other controversy was that afterwards, I don't know if you remember, but when he spreads the cards, people noticed that the aces, 3 of the aces, were 5 cards apart. So it was like 5 and then.
Oh, really?
And I've spoken to Ben about this, and Ben said, but that was just how they were shuffled because Teller brought their own deck, they shuffled them, and they brought them on, and I'd watched him do it a million times, and he was just letting me shuffle the cards and do it. So, I knew he was doing it without that being the case. But of course, people spotted something like that and think, I honestly believe in hindsight that Ben did fool them because they didn't really know what he was doing. I think if they'd just said, "We think you look where the aces are," and track them,
and then basically keep moving the deck around until you can find them.
Yeah,
it's like,
then he might have said yes, but they sort of were on the wrong track. They didn't really know what had gone on,
and they do have to stop. I think Johnny Thompson having someone, Johnny Thompson, who it was, deciding, okay, stop guessing now, guys, because if you keep guessing forever, they'll find it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you should be allowed, because you know, if you have to guess, you've been fooled.
Yes.
You know, if you have to start guessing methods, then you've been fooled.
Because I like it because it's not finding the aces trick, he's finding the aces.
Yeah. And the thing is, you know, Ben is so talented. He could have done, you know, the type of thing that Michael Vincent did. You know,
Yes.
some really clever sleight of hand type stuff, and wouldn't have fooled them. It would have been the same thing. They wouldn't have seen how he was doing it, but they would have known roughly what he was doing. And so, you know, he was brave and said, I'm doing this thing that I don't think anybody else can do.
There was not a full shuffle.
There was not a full deck full shuffle, but he was retaining
Oh, I
the
see.
aces.
So suddenly it's a full deck full shuffle. Can I ask you though, Ben? Was there a half full shuffle?
No.
No.
You weren't retaining the cards at all?
I was having to locate them, but I'm having to track them through shuffles, but there's no full shuffles.
Should we discuss quickly James Moore and Richard Bellas? So James Moore was also in this first episode. Not in the clip that I found, but he does squeeze box. I can't find a clip of him doing squeeze box, but it's a routine I know very well.
Yeah. But I mean, he definitely just went on there to get a good clip.
Yes, and also I imagine they were looking for an illusion act.
Yeah.
Not many illusion acts are going to fool anyone. If you know anything about illusions, as soon as you see a set of stairs or a table, you know how it works.
Yeah. I think Young and Strange went on there and did a sort of sub-trunk, didn't they?
Yes.
With a reveal at the back of the audience somehow. But
Hi to Barney, by the way.
no, yeah, they definitely wanted an illusion act on. I think Russ Stevens was involved with James Moore then as well, so I think Russ had a bit of input into the whole thing, because I think he did card manips and the squeeze box, and I think card manips were edited out of the final show.
Oh, really?
So he does squeeze box with cards on the floor. From what I remember.
And he probably thought,
So it was a relatively short clip from him, because the squeeze box is a relatively quick illusion. You show the box, you get in, you squash yourself, you get out.
yeah.
It was before he'd done Britain's Got Talent, but he was up and coming, and since then he's gone on and done tons of stuff with illusionists and everything else. But it did everything it needed to do for him on the show of get a great clip of him doing a good illusion.
Big shiny studio.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, Richard Bellas did. I have a vague memory this was a Nardi/Spellman effect called something like Mind Control.
Yeah,
It's probably still on, Alec.
yeah. So it's effectively, it's like a blank Svengali deck, isn't it?
Yes.
Effectively, sort of like almost like an invisible deck type routine. So, yeah, blank deck, and there, he gets Jonathan to close his eyes and hold the deck. He switches it for a blank deck, shows the audience all blank, and Jonathan Rothman peeks at the card and sees the Ten of Hearts, which Bellas can mug a little bit about, and then say, right, I'm going to work out what card you're thinking of. Of course, the audience think, well, he can't be thinking of anything. And he does that whole body language, oh, you flinched, yeah, you're nervous, stop, you've lost interest. Which is why Penn then jumps in and, does the it's all bullshit thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, I think that's a pet hair of pedantellers that, this fake explanations, and people don't have to know how you do it. The fact that you do it is amazing enough.
Yeah.
Just make the journey interesting.
Yes, it's always that.
Yeah.
But I think it was very popular at the time to do that because of Darren, to make the journey the interesting bit and, do Sherlockian nonsense or imply or implanting ideas. I did a gig recently and did a routine that I haven't done for about 6 or 7 years. But the patter is all Darren-y. It's like, I'm going to trick you into giving away what the card is that you're thinking of. And as I was doing it, I was like, oh, I've moved on since this routine, but I don't have fresh patter, so I'll just do it. I'll half-heartedly do the reading bit.
Yeah, I sometimes do, but I do it in such a ridiculous manner that it's obviously not true. I'll almost, a bit like I do with the envelopes, I'll go out, I've noticed your left-hand pocket's slightly ripped, which means your mother was probably a Gemini, and you first went to school wearing a pair of green shorts. Don't answer that, I don't.
You just take it to that.
You think of the 4 o'clock.
Absurdist comedy level.
Yeah. Just obviously, comedic.
Now, as a special treat to close tonight, you guys have promised to reveal how the most famous trick in magic is done. Is that right?
Yep.
This is one of the most famous, the most celebrated, the most imitated. We've all seen it. Now we're going to find out the nuts and bolts, the inner workings of this trick. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourself for an absolute treat as I give you, for the last time this evening, the fabulous Penn and Teller.
The final trick of the show is Penn and Teller always do a trick at the end, and they do their soaring
Sword of Heart. Yeah, which ended up in when magic tricks go wrong, didn't it?
Yes, I was going to see that when it came here to Norwich, but I got COVID. But my son and partner went to go see it, and they loved it. And it's full of Penn and Teller bits. They're classic bits. The water tank,
Soaring
a lady in half, where you see it come through. I'm so glad those bits live on, because those guys are too old to do that.
Yeah, they are. But you know what? I love, when magic goes wrong, I loved it. I preferred the Mentalist when it was just the Mentalist bit. I saw that at Edinburgh last year, and that was joyous. I loved that from start to end.
Because he was a part of the Young Magicians Club, wasn't he? He knows.
I believe he was. Yeah. I said hello to him, and he was aware of me and said hello, John. So he obviously knew who I was before I introduced myself. So he's obviously is, a little bit up on what's going on magically.
Because also they use. Well, the Stooge character...
Who's great as well, yeah.
Yes. I can't remember the name now. He's the other guy from Mischief Theatre.
Yeah.
He looks like Edward Hilsom.
He does. Yeah.
But he's great. But also they use genuine methods in there.
Yeah.
With the move or the... Yeah. There's some clips online for listeners if you've not seen it.
Yeah.
Look out, the Mind Mangler is him.
But what I was going to say, when I saw magic tricks go wrong, which I enjoyed, but not as much as Mind Mangler... I still felt like those tricks, the sword in half with all the guts and and the water tank, the death in the water tank. Still, it's difficult to do them as well as Penn and Teller.
Oh yeah,
it's sort of, it's fine if you've never seen Penn and Teller do them. It's wonderful, but when you've seen, Penn shouting and the blood and the guts, and when you've seen Teller dying in the tank, you sort of.
And the person's still counting out the time.
Yeah, it's
you broke Credini's record, Teller.
Yeah. Good as they were, it just makes you realise how much better they are when Penn and Teller do them.
No, like with all rewatch podcasts.
Yes.
I like the guest to rate the rewatch experience, specifically rewatching it. But I want a different scale for every episode.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, for this episode of Fool Us, how many non-false shuffles out of 10 do you give this rewatch experience?
Yeah, it's difficult because when you're in a show, you're not going to give it a low mark, are you? Well, I was sort of slightly confused because I watched it and thought, I'm sure it had more acts, and then I realised that the one we watched was missing
two of the acts.
Yeah, Bellas and Moore. And I thought there was somebody else as well. Of course, Noel Qualler did it, but it never got shown. He did a later one.
I think they went online, those ones, yeah.
Yeah, and I think somebody else might have done it and didn't fail.
Written down, actually.
Yeah. You could put it in the end note.
Oh, Damien O'Brien.
Did he actually do it? It didn't get shown.
Yeah, I think it was like an online exclusive, because this was in the early days of we've got to get people on our website for webisodes.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Noel had a bit of a mishap, and
yes,
so that I doubt that would have gone online, but Damien did it and went online, did he? So it's difficult because I didn't see the whole show, but there was bits that I'd forgotten about, and I'm going to give it a solid 8 non-false shuffles out of 10 non-false shuffles.
Thank you for indulging my
but I would give it 10 out of 10 card controls.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, yeah. 10 out of 10 card controls, but
only 8 non-magic shuffles.
Got you. What would give it the extra 2?
I'd give it 4 envelopes out of 5.
Okay. Which one is missing? Is it something, nothing, sex, yours, mine?
The sex was definitely missing.
Thank you so much to John for taking the time to talk to me all about the Fool Us pilot and anything and everything to do with magic and his career. It was a really fun chat. Thank you so much, John. I hope you, dear listener, found it as interesting as I did when him and I spoke. Now, if you want to get in touch with me to suggest future guests or specials that we can rewatch, you can email me at ttmotvpod@gmail.com. That's ttmotvpod@gmail.com. Now, I've been editing this podcast, so for the past day or two, I've had the Fool Us theme tune stuck in my head all day. Just whenever I'm walking to the shop, and just in the back of my mind, what I'm hearing is doon 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 doon. It's a great theme tune, right? I looked it up. Nick Foster. Nick Foster made this theme tune. He's also made theme tunes to other shows. He made some of the themes to some of Darren's stuff. Just a great theme tune. In fact, I'm just going to play it again, just to finish the podcast. Sing along. Join in with the trumpets bit. Go on. Doon 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 doon.